Right. Hello, everyone, and thank you for listening in. Today I am with the most beautiful lady, Belinda Seamark, and Belinda is a healer and a medium and a QHHT therapist, which is she's a fascinating blend of mysticism and healing and just an all-round lovely lady. So Belinda, welcome. I'm so glad that you could join me on this journey of mine, connecting with all sorts of people, and I can't wait to hear more about you in this little podcast, and it will just be a snippet, I know, because there's so much that you do and that you know. So welcome, and if you could start off by just telling us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Calli, and it's my absolute pleasure to be here with you and spend this time with you and have our chat. It's quite an open question. Okay, so basically I'm a mum, I'm a grandmother, I have 4 beautiful grandchildren and 4 beautiful daughters. So most of all, a parent and a mother. And my journey of healing started right back. I can't quite remember whether I was 14 or 15. My mum was incredibly fascinated with and always talked about ghosts and spirits and mediums, and she quite often, I remember as very little, she used to take me and she'd get her tea leaves read, and all I remember about it is the lady had cats everywhere. So but then
that seems to be an affinity.
yes, well, I've been called a crazy cat lady myself. Yeah.
There must be that witchy connection.
I'd say so, absolutely. Yeah. And so my journey with my healing started with mum sitting me down one day. I honestly can't recall the conversation per se, what we actually talked about, but next minute she was making a cup of tea and I was reading her tea leaves. And
Wow.
and I was about 14 or 15, so it just spurred on from there. And mum would, if she didn't have tea leaves, she would, the old-fashioned, well, we call it old-fashioned, it wasn't back then, it was quite well to do to have a coffee pot, that it was the percolator, the
filter coffee, yes.
yeah, the jug, and you plugged it in anyway. So she'd make a cup of coffee and I'd read her coffee grains. And then she started getting my auntie around and I would read both of their either tea leaves or coffee grounds. And what surprised me is, because even though I was just kind of, exploring really, is things started coming true. So quite often mum would bring me up, mum, as I, became a mum and went off on my own journey, she'd bring me up, oh, what are you up to, let's make us a cup of tea, So really she wanted me to go around and read her tea leaves. And even then, things would happen and they would come true. And so it just kind of spurred on from there, and myself exploring, going and visiting different mediums, doing different modalities. And so I would explore that as well, whether I did psychometry or using oracle cards or, gosh, just so many different things, and going on courses. So for a long time it was exploring myself and where it was heading. And I would do readings for people, whether it was, like psychometry, cards, tea leaves, or just simply hold their hands. And so things, they led on from there. And then one day I went to a medium. She used to draw pictures, and people that would around in the time would know her. She was up in Palmerston. And she did me a beautiful picture, and she said, oh my gosh, Spirit doesn't know how to work with you. And I said, oh, what are you talking about? She said, well, you do this and you do that and you do the other. She said, just pick one thing and just go with it. And I said, oh, well, I was waiting for a sign, which one am I supposed to be using? So I just picked up, so bought myself some oracle cards, and I just went from there. And after quite a few years, I then, I used to do spiritual healing with people, so just hands-on healing, and I would get asked, oh, where did you learn that, or how do you do that, or people couldn't really associate with it because it's energy healing.
Well, and we've been so conditioned into training, that you have to be trained to be able to do something.
Yes, absolutely.
Which is not true at all.
Yeah.
Not true at all.
Yeah.
Quite often we're born knowing how
absolutely to. I totally agree. And then I was introduced to my Reiki master, Robin Crimp, who quite a few people know, and she's taught many, many people. And I went off and I started the Reiki journey. So, and for me, it was, I believed in it, but it incorporated other healing as well. And it gave you a certificate on the wall. So people associate with the certificate on the wall. And it's not that I don't believe in it, but, it makes it, oh, okay, it's legitimate.
People feel better. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then
that's their programming, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So, and then from there, I went on. I was always fascinated about hypnosis and past life regression. The first book I recall reading on it was I was about 25. So I'd carried that with me, and I'd always believed in past lives. And then I ended up coming across Dolores Cannon, her Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique, and I was literally glued to YouTube. It was one of those spontaneous things where it's just meant to be at the right time, and she popped up on YouTube, and there I was, and I was just glued for days searching because everything she was talking about I resonated with. And it was like, wow, she's speaking my language. And so yeah, it was just another part of my journey, and then becoming a quantum healing hypnosis practitioner. So yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah. It sounds like your whole life has led to it, really. It probably wasn't anything that new to you when you started. Could you tell us a little bit about QHHT?
So quantum healing hypnosis was developed by Dolores Cannon, and she's written and published many books.
22.
I record 22. Yeah. So I have
coming out, because she left a whole lot of manuscripts when she passed, didn't she?
Yes, she did. Yes. So quantum healing hypnosis, it's healing. So it incorporates healing on a level where it's based on trauma and physical ailments, but also it works with you on mind, body, and spirit. And it incorporates everything, really, and it's taking you to a deeper level of your subconscious. And there's so many different names of that: the subconscious, the higher self, the higher soul, the oversoul, the innate. So it's taking you into a deeper level, and she calls it the trance state somnambulistic, which is that place where just before you're heading off to sleep and just as you're waking up. So it's a very deep trance place that you go into, and that's where all of the answers are. So people have been cured 100% from diabetes, cancer, tumors, all sorts of physical ailments, and it's very personal to the individual of what healing they receive in that session. because if it's your contract that you've signed up to have a particular ailment or illness when you came here, that's your lesson that you're possibly learning. So it's very, very individual, but spontaneous healing can happen in the session and has happened. So it's really, really broad. And within that, it doesn't matter what your belief system is. It works with anybody, because it's, the hypnosis and taking into that deep level of trance. And the thing that's happening with people now is, if you do go into a past life, because not everybody will go into a past life, they quite possibly regress. That's why the session is very individual to you, as as an individual person, and they may regress through their current life. And when that happens, because your higher self is what oversees us and looks after us, they take us where we need to go. And within that session, and the information that comes out is specific to you, what you need to know and what you need to learn and what you are ready to let go of. So in that, it's just so broad, I hope
yeah, absolutely, I get that. I'm having had a session with you quite a few years ago now. I can't believe it was in 2020. So yeah, 4 years ago. It doesn't seem that long.
No.
But yeah, it's an incredible modality, because it's deep healing, and it's also tapping into the wisdom of consciousness, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Bringing it's almost like bringing in consciousness into our three-dimensional existence. And a lot of Dolores's books are absolutely fascinating, because it's really about the cosmos and about who we are in this vast universe. Some people might go, "Oh, that's a bit weird," because she talks about other beings, she talks about other dimensions.
Absolutely.
But
yes.
it doesn't matter how weird you think it is, nothing trumps experience, does it? So when you experience it, realize, well, it doesn't matter. Even if just because you don't believe in something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And vice versa, just because you believe in something doesn't mean it exists.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
yeah.
QHHT seems to bring in the clarity around what is and what you think is, and brings it together, and you end up letting go of a lot of hang-ups and a lot of thinking that doesn't help you nor humanity. So it's a fascinating therapy.
Absolutely.
So how do you think that applies to healing itself, Belinda? What do you think happens in a QHHT session that initiates spontaneous healing?
Well, like I said, it depends on the individual and what they're coming for. And because you're taking them literally to a place where all of the answers are. And if they're not supposed to know something, their higher self will actually say, because that's the aim of the session, not just to have it is to have the healing, but to get all the answers and the information that the individual would like to know. And the healing, it just goes to a whole deeper level. You get the understanding of why you have a particular ailment, why you have phobias, and so it's taking you to that place of where it's actually coming from. And if it's not based on this life, it can, and a different ailment can come from a past life.
Yeah.
So it's you're doing your own healing. And that's the importance of it. As
the only way that you can heal is through yourself. Even a doctor, even a doctor, they might physically do something in your body, as in surgery, but what actually heals it? You.
That's right. That's actually right. And when you're ready to let go of whatever you're holding from, because whether we say it's an agreed contract when we come here that we've signed up to have that particular ailment, whatever it is going on with our body, whether it can be mentally, it can be physically, when we are ready to let go of it, or or let go of the lesson, then we can allow it to go. And within that session, you gain the understanding of where it actually comes from, whether it's from this life, something you've manifested, or you've brought it through from the past. And so I see myself as the practitioner, but I'm the guide and I'm the facilitator. So I guide you to that place, and facilitate the hypnosis and also the interviewer. It's kind of quite an in-depth session, because I'm asking the questions that you want to know, but also intuitively, all my past learning comes in, and intuitively knowing things to ask in that session as well. And we record the hypnosis part, so that you can take it home and listen to it over and over and over again. And sometimes what happens,
something different.
Absolutely.
Different goes,
ding. And as we're ascending, people, they may go into a past life and they get a feeling of knowingness. They can associate to the life that's coming through, and a knowing of, well, that actually really happened, and I have those memories, and it just feels right. But also what's happening with people as we're ascending, and as you'd understand, the veil of forgetfulness is kind of opening up, and people are having more memories of whether it's past, present, future.
Actually,
people used to, sorry?
That's a fascinating thing, that whole concept of past, present, and future, because even Dolores says there is no past, present, or future. There's only now.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, there's a present, and everything's happening simultaneously right now, which is quite a difficult thing for people to get their heads around. But yeah, so when you say a past life, it's probably more accurate that we say a different life. Because
well, interestingly enough, I had a session, and because you ask for permission to speak to the higher self, or we call it the subconscious, and Dolores named it the subconscious. And in that one particular session, I said, am I talking to the subconscious? And there was a little bit of silence, and the answer came back, I'm trying to find the words that you would understand in human terms. And I was like, okay. And then they said, this soul lives many lives simultaneously, and I oversee all of them.
Oh, so yeah, wow.
So it really is going on to a deeper level. But like I say, as you know, depending on your belief structure, it doesn't matter what you do and don't believe in, because you will receive the healing and get the answers that you're ready to get at that time. So, and Dolores always said, she wasn't a psychic medium. Every little bit of her information and everything that went into her books was through hypnosis sessions.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
She was a meticulous note taker, wasn't she?
Absolutely.
Absolutely meticulous, and very clinical about what she did as well. She wasn't at
Yes.
all woo-hoo, in that, you know, she made sure that there couldn't be any other influences. There couldn't be the information that she got, she always tried to verify, you know, and she'd go back and do the research, and she'd go, oh my goodness, actually this is true, you know.
Yes.
So yeah, she was a fascinating lady to read and to get to know through her writing and her YouTube videos, because she passed in 2014, didn't she?
Yes, she did. Yeah. Yeah,
So
she was
there's
way,
quite a lot.
way ahead of her. Sorry.
There's quite a lot of content of hers online.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And much to my joy, because although I like reading her books are on Spotify and
Yes.
on the audio books. So I'm constantly listening to them, and I just can't get enough of her learning and her teaching, because just like I say, I associate with what she says, and and you just absorb everything she says. And
Yeah.
she was a woman way ahead of her time. She
Mm.
started right back in the 1960s.
Yes.
And when she started her school in 2002 at the academy, at first she wouldn't teach anybody other than a already trained hypnotherapist that had got qualifications in hypnotherapy. And then one of her friends convinced her into teaching her, and she had no hypnotherapy training whatsoever. So, and it worked really well. So she decided that she would open up to more people. And what
Wow.
she discovered is that the people that had had no previous hypnotherapy qualifications were getting better results than the ones that were that have had previous qualifications, because she said they were having to unlearn.
A lot of the stuff. That's
Yes.
because a lot of our and I mean, this is my passion. You know, our education system, and I do that with quotation marks at the
Yes.
moment, is about programming,
Yes.
basically programming people to be compliant, to do what is they're meant to do. But I think more and more and more unprogrammable souls have come down to the earth, and the system is just falling apart because they can't the system can't cope with the amount of souls that are here that are non-compliant,
Yes.
that are not going to behave, that are not going to do what the system is programming them to do. And that's why you hear such horror stories these days, I think, about school and about education and about all the things that come around that. So yeah, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. So do you resonate with what I've just said? Have you found that when you're working with people that more and more is coming out, that there's a whole lot of us that are here now at this time to create a paradigm shift, to get us to shift to the next level, so to speak? I don't really like levels because it sounds hierarchical, but to a different way of being, away from the
Absolutely.
3D to fifth dimensional expansive living, you know. um have you seen like a trend in that direction when you're working with people under hypnosis?
Oh, absolutely. Just the information that is coming out in sessions from people, and because it's coming from that, source,
Yes.
basically, it's on a higher level. Like I've spoken to a 6th-dimensional being, and that was incredible. And one of my very first practice sessions with a friend of mine that's transitioned now, she's on the other side. She came from such a high, it's hard to describe really, but she came from such a high source. Like you say, I don't want to be, have it on those levels. I could actually feel it when I was talking to her, because she came from source, and she said she came from the beginning of time, right?
Wow.
From the very beginning. And she talked about everything that's happening with people now. It's working perfectly. Everything is working as it should be, and it's working out perfectly.
It always has been. It always has been. Whether we see it as that or not, whether we perceive it as that or not, it doesn't matter. Everything is exactly as it should be.
Yes. And the information that comes out in sessions, it's, we talk about the levels, but it's provided each time I get snippets of more information of things that are either happened or coming up, but keep just really encouraging people that we are doing the right thing. We are heading in the right direction. And I totally agree. The school system, it's collapsing around us really, and it's not keeping up with these. People are labeled with ADHD and things like that. They're high energy. They've just, and they're falling out of the system.
Oh, for sure.
And
have you noticed that a lot of us who are deemed spiritual, I guess, or mediums, and are diagnosed dyslexic or ADHD or autistic or all those neurodivergent labels, a lot of us us older ones are on that spectrum, so to speak. And now there seems to be this huge surge of young people who are or young men and women, I don't like that word, people, coming in, who are like us, and they're all neurodivergent, like nobody knows what to do with them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Totally. And they learn so quickly and so fast, and it's like they've already got the information that has taken us years to learn.
And they're bored out of their minds. Absolutely bored. I know that, just as a teacher in the system, I've noticed that in the last 10 years particularly. Whoa, a huge upsurge. And when people ask me, why do you think that is, I can't really reply to them in a three-dimensional way. I can't say, oh, it's because of this, or it's because of this, or it's because actually because they're meant to be here at this time, It's a woohoo answer. It's not a practical answer. Whether they've come in and had an experience that has changed them to become autistic or ADHD, or whether it's environmental, whether it's congenital, whatever it is, in the end, it is what it is, and they're here to do a job. And that's what is very difficult to explain to conventional thinkers, so to speak. So most of my career has been working with these kids, right from way back, and people go, how do you do it? How do you turn a classroom that's in absolute freaking chaos with somebody else into a humming, happy, productive place. How do you do it? I don't know. I can't give you a formula. It's because it's a heart thing. It's a connection thing. It's a communication thing. It's recognizing each other. So I guess it's really similar when you're working with people on a healing journey, because if you don't have that connection or that communication or even the creativity, you're not going to get the best out of it.
No, and they're becoming more aware and more open. And the thing for me is that I'd had lots of meditations and connections with past lives that I associated with. So when I had my session, I straight away associated with that life, and being there. And like you say, whether it's simultaneously happening but this is the life that I'm living at the moment, so it's the most important one that I'm manifesting in, but it's having those memories and waking up to those memories. And the children that are coming through now, they're very open to the new way of learning and having these memories and having the understanding that things come from a much deeper level than where we've been programmed from. And I was brought up in a time where children were to be basically seen and not heard, not quite that strict, but outside and play, and adults talked, and
exactly.
what would you know? You're just a child, kind of thing. You didn't really, what you said didn't have value. Whereas that's just changed so much. We value what our children have got to say, and they teach us more than we can teach them at times.
Oh,
and
absolutely. I completely agree with you there. I've
Yeah.
always said that the kids teach me way more than I've ever taught them. And the harder they are, the more fascinating they are. Honestly, the depth of understanding and the depth of wisdom can be directly correlated to the worst behavior.
Yeah, and those kind of things came out in Dolores's sessions in her books as well, talking about children that having these new abilities, or they're not really new abilities, they're just having a remembrance of who they are. And interestingly enough, because children need to learn less than what we do, because as adults we have to be retrained. But what is happening in the sessions is that Dolores got to a certain stage where being somnambulistic meant you were completely under, like in a deep state of trance where you had no memory of the hypnosis at all. But people are having this awareness. At first she thought she was doing something wrong, and she had to change what she was doing. But the more our vibration is raising, the more that we're opening up to previous memories, and
we're more
ascending.
aware, aren't we? We're more
absolutely
aware.
Even in my session that I had, the lady was doing her training, and I went to be one of her sessions to practice people to practice with, and I was completely aware of my body the whole time, and my surroundings and the room. But because I trust the process and I believe in what was happening, I just allowed all the information to come through, and my analytical mind, basically. Dolores was quite funny. She called that Mr. Stupid. the one that keeps coming in and questioning everything and doubting everything.
Oh, is this real?
Yeah. Well, that's still there, but I just went with the flow, and that's part of us having this awareness of, bringing all these memories forward. So it's
Absolutely. Yeah, because I found that fascinating. I have never been able to be hypnotized.
Yeah.
From even a little kid. Nobody could hypnotize me. We used to go to these hypnotic shows, and everybody would sort of zombie-like walk up and do the. I was like, look, why am I so aware? And when I did the session with you, I was completely aware of what was going on and actually had to choose to stand aside.
Yeah. Yes.
Rather than try and get involved. But what's fascinating is, I don't know if you remember, but halfway through the session, they started roadworks right outside the window. And there was all this noise and in the recording, you can hear it, that like jackhammers going and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that at all.
And also because they were doing not so much renovations, it was to do with the road outside and those big road rollers that they level the roll, and the whole room was vibrating like It's hilarious. I was sitting there thinking, I remember, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, is that going to disrupt? Is that going to bring you back? And like, oh my gosh, but we just carried on. And I remember, and then it went really quiet, and then we brought you out of the hypnosis. And oh no, I was completely aware and I remember everything. And then the road roller started up again, and I said, well, did you hear that? And you went, no. And I said, well, that was going through your session. And like, wow, so it just goes to show that we are deeper in trance.
Yes, exactly.
And the differences as well as you're coming along and you're a willing participant in the session. And it makes a really big difference. And because I've always had a desire to help people, I just, right since I was little, I just wanted to help people, and it's carried through. And it's interesting, being on the right path. Every career type job that I've ever invested in, for some reason or other, it just hasn't worked out. And life has gone stop. And then I come back on the spiritual path, and then, everything starts working out again. And I kind of lost track of what I was talking about there, actually. But it's all relevant.
It's all part of it. Yes, well, it is fascinating how, because I've been a teacher from probably since I was born, to be honest. That's been my path. But it came to a point in my career that it was like, okay, stop, because this is the path that you're on, but you're actually going to have to do a divergent, like a leave stage right path here, and things have so totally changed me. In 4 years, I'm just a completely different person, absolutely different person. In from last year to this year, I'm still a different person. Somebody did a podcast interview with me 2 years ago, and they only just released it. And I watched it, I thought, that's not me. I don't. It's completely irrelevant, because it's not actually relevant anymore. So much has happened, so much has grown, so much is happening at the moment that so yeah, that it all comes together, doesn't it, for this to this particular moment. And I think QHHT really highlights that everything that's ever been is right now, and what makes you this soul or this energy or this whatever you want to call it in this moment.
And everything I've done, I believe, has led me to this point of where I'm at doing what I'm doing now. And so that's where I was heading with what I was saying before, is that, it's up to me in that session as well to make you feel comfortable and safe, and because I'm there with pure loving intention, and to get the best out of the session for you as a client when you come to see me. So and with the learning, I just never stop learning.
Fascinating.
And every session I have, I learn something new, something different. Every person has something new to offer. And so for me, when I'm doing the hypnosis, if somebody had a recorder, videoing the session, you'd see me, I get closer and closer to the edge of my seat without realizing because I'm just so like, wow, listening to you, and it's just fascinating. I've had incredible sessions, whether it be someone regressing through their current life, which is just as fascinating, because there what happens is memories come up that they've forgotten about, and it has an impact on their life in some way. And because they're looking at it from a different angle, they get more understanding of, wow, I understand how that affected me, or wow, I understand the lessons that I got from that. And that's amazing about the session as well. You get to learn about your lessons and what life has been teaching you, and it just really opens you up. And once you've had a session and we've opened up that channel basically to the subconscious, it is then always there and it's always open. So that happens for an individual. But I must admit, going into past lives, that's incredibly fascinating as well. I've had the six-dimensional being. I've had myself, I went back to the life of being a Native American Indian man.
Oh, wow.
And I still remember the session, and I could not, if you told me to write the story or a book or a story of living the life of being in a Native American tribe, I couldn't have made that story up. So when it came out, I was like, wow, gosh, I wouldn't have thought of saying the things that I said, because I could vividly see myself there. And I've had people living just basic lives, everyday lives of being a farmer or being a slave, living in castles, and again living as a slave, captured from a family in the time of like when there was the bubonic plague. What else have I had? I've had a fighter pilot that was in World War II, and that was quite an interesting session as well, because even though that was their job and that's what they had to do as a pilot, they were not happy with what they were doing at all, because they knew that they were leading people to basically they weren't necessarily going to come back. But what from that is you get to understand the lessons of why you had that life and the lessons that you got from that life, and also being able to ask, the lessons that you're learning here currently. What am I here to learn? What am I here to do? So sometimes people don't need to ask that, because they just know. They know what they're here to do, and they come from, for different reasons. So it's just like I say, I never stop learning. I haven't. It's just basically, like I said to you before, like just
Yeah,
an explosion of information. And I just love doing it.
To do. Yeah, what a fascinating job to have.
Yeah, and to see the results and the difference in people's lives as well, because other than what I get from the session, which is a lot, it's when how people feel about themselves, or the deeper level of understanding that they get of themselves and what's happening in their lives currently or in the past. And it really does change people's lives. It really, really does. And sometimes people, they might listen to their recording afterwards and they're like, gosh, that sounds like a whole bit of, gobbledygook, basically. I can't associate with that. So they'll ring me back and just have a little chat. And it's like, well, you've got to remember that's your analytical mind coming in and analysing and doubting, because the session went really perfectly and you got the information that you needed to out of that session. Just keep listening to your recording, because it, sit with it. How does it feel? Yeah.
Yeah. When it's meant to.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yes. Oh, one day they'll go, oh, I get it now.
Yes.
Belinda, thank you so much for your time. It's been
You're very welcome.
An hour goes so quickly, doesn't it?
Oh wow. Yes, it did.
And how would people get hold of you, Belinda? Do you do online sessions, or is it?
No. Dolores, that was one thing she asked, that I do believe some people are doing types of sessions online, but I'm true to QHHT. I will not do sessions online. I may, I do my readings and on different things online, but not QHHT, because if you have the internet go down, or the connection go, or if you're on the phone or anything and you've got that person in hypnosis, you're not there. But also it's a very personal thing as well. And I know Dolores had group sessions, but they were for subjects that she was doing studies with, and she'd have people there. But you as an individual, we very much need to be together in a room, and that's what she asked, that we'd only ever do the sessions with one person. So you're as an individual, and people hold back as well if there's somebody else there. They naturally won't give information, or they hold back on things, and sometimes they do it without even realizing it. So yes, it is individual, one-on-one in person. So
where can people find you, Belinda? Where can people find you?
My Facebook page is QHHT with Belinda Seamark.
Yeah. Okay.
And then there's my email address and phone number. I'm currently working on a website, but I haven't. It's the technological things are not my forte. I'm a practical person.
We'll work on that together.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
So QHHT with Belinda Seamark on Facebook. And is your number and contact email on that page?
Yes, so email, phone number on my Facebook page.
Excellent. Yeah. I'll put a link with this in the bio.
Thank you. And I'm on Google Maps at the Lotus Yoga Center.
Okay, and the whole it's Kapiti, Horowhenua, Wellington region. Unless you really want to come from northern and make an appointment, you never know. There's not that many QHHT therapists around, are there? There are a few, but not very many in New Zealand. So I know there's one in Rotorua. But I've not actually heard of anybody else, to be honest. So.
And you can find me on the QHHT official website, the American website, under Find a Practitioner. So I'm on there as well. Yeah.
All right. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. I've so loved speaking with you, and
You're welcome.
I'm sure we will be on here again sometime.
Yes. Yes, I could talk about it for hours, because it's just so, it just takes you to so many different
It sure
areas.
does.
And
It sure does. And it's not as scary as you thought it was going to be, I hope.
No, I haven't got the knots in my tummy now.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll say goodbye. And to everyone, thank you for watching. If you've watched this all the way to the end, and look in the bio and you will find all the details to contact Belinda. And hopefully we'll see you again soon, Belinda.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.